Earth is not only shaped by roads that guide us forward, but also by routes that challenge life itself. Some cling to sheer cliffs, hanging above bottomless abysses where a single mistake could mean the end. Others vanish deep into untouched forests, where one wrong step can turn a journey into an endless nightmare with no escape. These are places where fear merges with surreal beauty. Every meter becomes a brutal test of survival, pushing humans to their absolute limits. Yet it is here, on the edge of danger, that the world reveals its most insane perspectives, views so extreme that only the brave ever witness them. And it's not just roads. Spectacular railway lines cut through towering mountains, cross deadly ravines, and slice across unreal landscapes that feel ripped from another world. Each track is a triumph of human ambition against the raw power of nature, leaving anyone who sees it completely awestruck. Now, take a deep breath, because you are about to embark on a journey across the most spectacular, dangerous, and mind-blowing road and rail routes on Earth, where beauty and terror exist side by side, and every step forward feels unforgettable. D915 road in Turkey is not a road made for travel. It's a test of nerve. Stretching roughly 106 kilometers between Trabzon and Bayburt, this route was originally built in 1916 for military purposes, never intended for everyday drivers. What makes D915 terrifying are its 29 consecutive hairpin turns, carved into a sheer mountainside at over 1,800 meters above sea level. The road is often only one lane wide, with no guardrails, and a single mistake means a direct fall into a bottomless abyss. In rain or thick mountain fog, visibility drops to near zero, turning the dirt and gravel surface into a deadly trap. Although a safer alternative road now exists, D915 remains, drawing thrill seekers and adventurers chasing danger itself. Changla Pass in India is not just a road. It's a battle against altitude itself. Sitting at approximately 5,360 meters above sea level, it is one of the highest motorable mountain passes in the world, connecting Leh to the remote Pangong Lake region. Oxygen levels here drop by nearly 40%, making altitude sickness a real and immediate threat, even for experienced travelers. Temperatures can plunge below -20 degrees Celsius, while sudden snowstorms and whiteouts can trap vehicles without warning. The road is narrow, uneven, and often coated with ice, slush, or loose gravel, with sections maintained solely by the Indian Army under extreme conditions. Engines lose power, brakes become unreliable, and human endurance is pushed to its limits. Changla may offer breathtaking Himalayan views, but survival here depends on preparation, luck, and respect for nature. Tianmen Mountain Road is located in Zhangjiajie, Hunan Province, China. The road is 11 kilometers long and rises from the city to the top of Tianmen Mountain, gaining over 1,300 meters in elevation in a short distance. It is known for its 99 sharp hairpin turns, a number chosen for its cultural significance in China, symbolizing eternity. The roadway is narrow and steep, with multiple sections lacking protective guardrails. The curves are tight enough that large vehicles must slow to a crawl to navigate them safely. Due to the mountain's altitude and weather patterns, dense fog and low visibility are common, sometimes reducing sight distance to just a few meters. Tianmen Mountain Road was built to provide access to Tianmen Cave, a natural arch in the mountain. It remains one of China's most technically demanding mountain roads for drivers. Train to the Clouds. Tren a las Nubes is one of the most extreme railway journeys on Earth. Running through the Andes of northern Argentina, this legendary train climbs to 4,220 meters, 13,845 feet, above sea level, higher than many alpine peaks and close to the cruising altitude of small aircraft. The full route spans about 217 kilometers, crossing an engineering nightmare of 29 bridges, 21 tunnels, 13 viaducts, and multiple spirals and zigzags designed to overcome brutal elevation without using rack rails. Its most iconic structure, the La Polvorilla Viaduct, towers 63 meters above the canyon floor, suspended in open air. At this altitude, oxygen levels drop by nearly 40%. Temperatures can fall below -10 degrees Celsius, and strong winds are constant. Altitude sickness is a real threat, even for passengers sitting still. Los Caracoles Pass, Chile, is one of the most dramatic mountain roads in South America, cutting through the Andes near the Chile-Argentina border. Its name, meaning the snails, comes from a series of perfectly stacked switchbacks that spiral sharply up the mountainside. In just a few kilometers, the road climbs to an altitude of over 3,200 meters, featuring around 29 extreme hairpin turns, each one tighter and steeper than the last. From above, it looks breathtaking. From behind the wheel, it feels relentless. The road is narrow, exposed, and often battered by strong winds, snow, and sudden ice, especially in winter. Trucks, buses, and cars are forced to crawl past one another with centimeters to spare, while a single misjudged turn can send a vehicle sliding toward the abyss. Mauritania Iron Ore Train. Stretching nearly 2.5 kilometers in length, the Mauritania Iron Ore Train is one of the longest and most dangerous trains on Earth. It hauls up to 84,000 tons of iron ore across 700 kilometers of open Sahara Desert, from the mines of Zuaira to the Atlantic port of Nouadhibou. With no passenger cars, thousands of people ride on top of open ore wagons, exposed to desert winds, choking iron dust, and temperatures swinging from 45 degrees Celsius by day to near freezing at night. The journey lasts 12 to 20 hours, with no shelter, no toilets, and no safety restraints. One sudden break or sandstorm can throw riders from the train at full speed. For many Mauritanians, this brutal ride is not an adventure, but a lifeline carved through one of the harshest environments on Earth. Despite its danger, the train remains the fastest and often the only affordable connection between remote desert communities. Zojila Pass, India, is one of the most extreme mountain crossings in the Himalayas, linking the Kashmir Valley to the high-altitude region of Ladakh. Sitting at an elevation of approximately 3,528 meters, this pass serves as a critical lifeline, yet its design feels almost accidental. The road stretches for about 9 kilometers through the most dangerous section, much of it reduced to a single narrow lane clinging to unstable rock. In winter, snow accumulation can exceed 10 meters, forcing the pass to close for up to 6 months each year. Temperatures regularly drop below -20 degrees Celsius, while sudden blizzards and avalanches can strike without warning. Heavy military convoys, trucks, and local traffic are all forced to share this fragile route, often passing each other with only centimeters to spare. Fort Monroe is a rare high-altitude refuge, rising from the harsh plains of southern Pakistan. Perched at around 1,850 meters, 6,070 feet, in the Sulayman Mountains, it towers nearly 1.5 kilometers above the scorching lowlands of Dera Ghazi Khan, where summer temperatures can exceed 45 degrees Celsius. Up here, the air cools dramatically, often 10 to 15 degrees Celsius lower than the desert below. The road to Fort Monroe is the real test, a narrow mountain route with dozens of sharp hairpin bends, steep drops, and sections exposed to landslides and rockfall. Visibility can collapse in minutes due to fog or sudden storms, while emergency services are scarce due to the area's isolation. Built during the British era as a strategic hill station, Fort Monroe feels suspended between extremes, blistering desert and cool mountain air. Collie Hills Road, India, is a remote mountain route in Tamil Nadu, often known as the Road of 70 Hairpin Bends. Though only about 25 kilometers long, it climbs to an elevation of over 1,200 meters, twisting through dense forest and steep cliffs with an almost unreal intensity. The road's most shocking feature is its 70 consecutive hairpin turns, many of them near 180-degree curves, carved into the mountainside with barely enough space for a single vehicle. There are long stretches with no guardrails at all, leaving nothing between a driver and a sheer drop of hundreds of meters. Thick fog frequently rolls in during early mornings and evenings, reducing visibility to almost zero, while heavy rain turns the narrow asphalt into a slick, unforgiving surface. Collie Hills Road may reward travelers with breathtaking views and untouched landscapes, but it carries a quiet warning. One small mistake on this road doesn't end the journey, it erases it. Maeklong Railway Market in Thailand is one of the world's most dangerous places, hiding in plain sight. This bustling market is built directly on an active railway line, where vendors sell food and goods just centimeters from passing trains. Up to 8 trains travel through the market every day, each weighing hundreds of tons and moving through a space barely wider than the tracks themselves. When the train horn sounds, umbrellas are folded and stalls are pulled back in seconds, leaving no margin for error. A delayed reaction, a distracted tourist, or a slip on the wet tracks could result in fatal consequences. Here, danger isn't rare or unexpected. It arrives on schedule, and survival depends entirely on perfect timing. Lingpaishi Road is one of Chongqing's most intimidating cliffside routes, carved directly into vertical limestone walls that rise more than 300 meters above the valley floor. Some sections narrow to just 3 meters, barely wide enough for a single vehicle, with no guardrails protecting drivers from sheer drop-offs. The road twists through a series of rough, semi-enclosed rock corridors where falling stones are frequent. Over 100 small rockfall events are recorded annually during the rainy season. Dense mountain fog can reduce visibility to less than 10 meters, while sudden downpours turn the rocky surface slick and unpredictable. Remote, isolated, and carved into some of China's steepest terrain, Lingpaishi Road remains one of the most dangerous mountain passages in the entire Chongqing region. Fairy Meadows Road, Pakistan, is often described as one of the most dangerous mountain roads in the world, yet it leads to one of the most beautiful places on Earth. This narrow dirt track branches off the Karakoram Highway and climbs roughly 15 kilometers toward Fairy Meadows, sitting beneath Nanga Parbat, 8,126 meters, the world's 9th highest mountain. The road clings to steep slopes at extreme angles, with long sections reduced to a single lane no wider than 3 meters and almost no guardrails. In places, the surface is nothing more than loose gravel carved into crumbling rock, with drops plunging hundreds of meters into the valley below. Only locally trained jeep drivers are trusted to navigate it, and even a small steering error can be fatal. Passage du Gois is one of the most dangerous roads in France, and it disappears twice a day. This 4.1-kilometer causeway connects the mainland to Ile de Noirmoutier, crossing a tidal bay that is completely submerged during high tide. Sea levels here can rise by up to 4 meters in minutes, turning the road into a deadly trap for anyone who misjudges timing. Vehicles have been swept away, and stranded pedestrians must climb rescue towers placed along the route to survive until the water recedes. What makes it especially treacherous is the speed of the tide and sudden currents that knock people off their feet. The road is only safely passable for about 1 to 2 hours at low tide. Passage du Gois isn't just a road, it's a countdown where being late can be fatal. Guoliang Tunnel Road, China, is one of the most extraordinary mountain roads ever built, carved straight through the Taihang Mountains in Henan Province. Constructed in the 1970s by local villagers using hand tools, the tunnel stretches about 1.2 kilometers, cut directly into solid rock. Instead of a conventional enclosed tunnel, its most striking feature is a series of irregular vertical windows hacked out of the cliff face, allowing light and air to enter and exposing the sheer drop outside. The road is only around 4 meters wide, barely enough for a single vehicle, with rough rock walls pressing in on both sides. Uneven surfaces, sharp turns inside the tunnel, and limited visibility make every meter demanding. Hanoi Train Street is one of the most dangerous urban streets on Earth, and it's real. Located in the heart of Vietnam's capital, this narrow residential alley is built directly along an active railway line, with houses standing just 30 to 50 centimeters from the tracks. There are no barriers, no protective walls, only daily life pressed against raw steel and speed. Several times a day, trains weighing hundreds of tons roar through the street, at speeds up to 40 kilometers per hour, leaving barely seconds for people to retreat. Residents must pull in tables, motorbikes, even children, as the train passes just inches away. One wrong step, a moment of distraction, or a stumble could be fatal. North Yungas Road, Bolivia, infamous as the Death Road, is one of the most lethal roads ever built. Carved into the Andes Mountains, the route stretches roughly 64 kilometers, dropping from icy highlands at over 4,600 meters down into the humid Yungas jungle. Before it was closed to regular car traffic, the road was blamed for more than 300 deaths every year, caused by a deadly mix of single-lane width, sheer cliffs plunging up to 600 meters, heavy fog, landslides, and almost no guardrails. Vehicles were forced to pass each other with mere centimeters to spare, often in rain that turned the dirt surface into mud. Today, the road is largely reserved for cyclists, but its reputation remains unchanged. North Yungas Road stands as a chilling reminder that some roads are so unforgiving that closing them becomes the only way to save lives. The Death Railway, Thailand, officially known as the Burma Railway, is one of the most brutal and tragic engineering projects in human history. Built during 1942 to 1943 by the Japanese Imperial Army, this 415-kilometer railway was forced through dense jungle and sheer limestone cliffs to connect Thailand and Myanmar. More than 200,000 laborers were used, including Allied POWs and Asian civilians. An estimated 90,000 civilians and 12,000 prisoners of war died from starvation, disease, beatings, and exhaustion, giving the railway its infamous name. On average, one life was lost for every sleeper laid. The most terrifying section hugs vertical cliffs above the River Kwai, where workers carved ledges by hand with primitive tools. Heat exceeded 40 degrees Celsius, malaria and cholera spread unchecked, and bodies were buried beside the tracks. Today, trains still pass through parts of the line, especially near Tamkrasai Bridge, where beauty hides unimaginable suffering. Skipper's Canyon Road, New Zealand, is one of the most notorious scenic drives in the country, carved into the sheer cliffs above the Shotover River near Queenstown. Built in the 1880s during the Gold Rush era, this 22-kilometer gravel road was blasted directly into solid rock, leaving sections so narrow that two vehicles cannot pass. There are virtually no guardrails, and sheer drops plunge hundreds of meters to the river below. The road's sharp switchbacks, blind corners, and crumbling edges are intensified by frequent rockfalls and sudden weather changes. Because of the extreme risk, most rental car insurance policies are invalid here, a rare warning in New Zealand. Atlantic Ocean Road, Norway, is a short but spectacular coastal route that appears to float between sea and sky. Stretching just 8.3 kilometers along Norway's western coast, the road connects a chain of small islands using 8 dramatic bridges, the most famous being the sharply curved Storseisundet Bridge. Built to withstand the North Atlantic's fury, the road is fully exposed to open ocean conditions, where waves during storms can rise several meters high and crash directly over the roadway. What makes it truly striking is its shape. The road bends and rises unpredictably, disappearing and reappearing between islands, creating the illusion that it ends abruptly in the sea. During severe weather, visibility drops, wind gusts intensify, and the asphalt becomes slick with salt water. Dhaka commuter trains. In the heart of Bangladesh's capital, Dhaka commuter trains are among the most dangerous forms of daily transportation on Earth. With a metropolitan population exceeding 22 million, the rail system is overwhelmed far beyond its capacity. During peak hours, trains carry 3 to 4 times the number of passengers they were designed for, forcing thousands to ride on rooftops, doorways, and between carriages. Every year, hundreds of deaths are reported from falls, electrocution, and collisions along the tracks. Sudden stops can throw people onto the rails, while low bridges strike those riding above. Col de Tourigny, France, is a legendary mountain pass in the French Alps, best known for its role in the Monte Carlo Rally. Rising to an altitude of about 1,607 meters, the road is relatively short but intensely demanding, defined by a dense sequence of tight hairpin turns and blind corners carved into steep, forested slopes. At night, when the rally made it famous, the road becomes even more intimidating, with limited visibility and sudden elevation changes compressing reaction time. Snow, ice, and fog are common in winter, while narrow lanes leave little room for error even in dry conditions. Gokteik Viaduct in Myanmar is one of the most terrifying railway bridges ever built. Completed in 1900, this steel trestle bridge rises over 100 meters above a deep gorge and stretches nearly 700 meters in length. Designed more than a century ago, it still carries trains across unstable terrain, prone to landslides and seismic activity. Strong crosswinds can shake the structure, while aging metal components endure constant stress from passing trains. There are no safety barriers for passengers, only open air and a sheer drop below. Trains cross the viaduct at extremely slow speeds, yet even a mechanical failure or structural weakness could be catastrophic. Here, every crossing is a reminder that survival depends on trust in century-old engineering suspended above nothingness. Karakoram Highway, Pakistan, is one of the highest and most extreme international roads in the world, stretching over 1,300 kilometers from Pakistan to China across the Karakoram Mountains. Often called the eighth wonder of the world, the highway climbs to heights above 4,700 meters at the Kunjarab Pass, where oxygen levels drop dramatically and weather conditions change without warning. The road cuts through some of the planet's most violent geology, passing beneath towering peaks and active fault lines formed by the collision of the Indian and Eurasian plates. Landslides, rockfalls, avalanches, and floods are constant threats, frequently closing sections for days or weeks. Built at enormous human cost, over 20 years of construction, the Karakoram Highway is both a vital trade route and a severe test of endurance. Nawabpur. In Nawabpur, Bangladesh, danger does not erupt from cliffs or storms, but from the street itself. This historic commercial district has evolved into one of the most chaotic traffic zones in the country. Narrow roads built decades ago now carry thousands of pedestrians, rickshaws, motorcycles, delivery vans, and overloaded trucks every hour, with almost no lane separation. Informal street markets spill directly onto the roadway, forcing vehicles to weave through crowds, transporting metal parts, machinery, and construction goods. During peak hours, traffic can slow to walking speed for more than 30 minutes across a distance shorter than 1 mile. Aging infrastructure, broken signals, and inconsistent enforcement amplify the risk. Local reports document frequent collisions, injuries, and near misses daily. In Nawabpur, movement itself becomes a calculated gamble where congestion, human density, and fragile systems collide. Transfăgărășan Highway, Romania, is often called one of the most spectacular mountain roads in the world, slicing dramatically through the southern Carpathians. Stretching about 90 kilometers, the highway climbs to an altitude of 2,042 meters at its highest point near Balea Lake. Its most striking feature is a chain of sharp, tightly packed hairpin turns stacked high above deep valleys, creating a serpentine shape visible from kilometers away. Built in the 1970s as a strategic military route, the road cuts through harsh alpine terrain prone to fog, sudden storms, and heavy snowfall, which forces it to close for up to half the year. Steep drops, narrow lanes, and limited barriers demand constant focus from drivers. Kolyma Highway, Russia, often called the Road of Bones, is one of the most haunting roads on Earth. Stretching over 2,000 kilometers between Yakutsk and Magadan, it cuts through one of the coldest inhabited regions on the planet. Winter temperatures here regularly fall below -50 degrees Celsius, cold enough to freeze engines solid and turn metal brittle. Built in the 1930s to 1950s using forced labor from Gulag camps, thousands of prisoners died during construction, and their remains were reportedly buried directly beneath the road due to frozen ground, giving the highway its grim name. Large sections are isolated beyond help, with hundreds of kilometers between settlements, and in winter, the road often exists only as a frozen track over permafrost and rivers. Taroko Gorge Road, Taiwan, winds through one of Asia's most dramatic natural corridors, carved deep into marble cliffs inside Taroko National Park. The road follows the Liwu River for roughly 20 kilometers, threading between vertical canyon walls that rise hundreds of meters on both sides. In many sections, the roadway is squeezed into narrow ledges and short tunnels blasted directly through solid rock, leaving barely enough space for two vehicles to pass. What makes it especially dangerous is the constant threat of rock falls, triggered by heavy rain, earthquakes, and typhoons, events that regularly force temporary closures. Sheer drops, limited shoulders, and sudden bends reduce reaction time to seconds. Despite its postcard beauty, Taroko Gorge Road is a reminder that this landscape is still alive and unstable. Dalton Highway, Alaska, USA, is one of the most remote and unforgiving roads in North America, stretching about 666 kilometers from Fairbanks to Deadhorse on the Arctic Ocean. Built in the 1970s to support the Trans-Alaska Pipeline, the highway crosses vast tundra, mountain passes, and permafrost terrain where human presence nearly disappears. Long sections are unpaved, turning to thick mud in summer and solid ice in winter, while temperatures can plunge below -40 degrees Celsius. There are only 3 small service points along the entire route, leaving hundreds of kilometers without fuel, food, or cell service. The Dalton Highway is not dangerous because of sharp curves or height, but because of isolation. Stelvio Pass. Italy is one of the most iconic and extreme mountain roads in Europe, etched high into the Italian Alps. Reaching an elevation of 2,757 meters, it is among the highest paved passes on the continent. The road is instantly recognizable for its 48 tight hairpin turns on the northern side alone, stacked one above another like a stone staircase climbing the mountain. Built in the 19th century, Stelvio was never designed for modern traffic, yet cars, motorbikes, and cyclists now battle for space on its unforgiving curves. Tateyama-Kurobe Alpine Route, Japan, is a high mountain transit route that cuts directly through the Japanese Alps, linking Toyama and Nagano prefectures at elevations reaching 2,450 meters. Rather than a single road, it is a dramatic sequence of mountain buses, tunnels, cable cars, and ropeways crossing one of Japan's harshest alpine environments. Its most iconic feature is the Yuki no Otani Snow Corridor, where winter snow accumulation can exceed 20 meters, creating towering snow walls up to 15 to 20 meters high when the route opens in spring. Sudden weather changes, strong winds, and lingering snowfields make conditions unpredictable even in summer. Trollstigen, Norway, meaning the Troll's Ladder, is one of the most dramatic mountain roads in Scandinavia, winding through steep cliffs and waterfalls in western Norway. The road climbs to about 858 meters above sea level, featuring 11 tight hairpin turns stacked sharply against near-vertical rock walls. Built in 1936, Trollstigen was engineered to conquer extreme terrain, yet it remains narrow, exposed, and intensely demanding to drive. Several sections lack substantial guardrails, and the road is constantly threatened by rockfalls and avalanches, forcing seasonal closures, usually from autumn to late spring. Waterfalls cascade directly beside the roadway, adding to both the beauty and the hazard, especially during rain, when the surface becomes slick. Lanying Canyon Cliff Road, China, is a mountain route carved directly into the vertical walls of a remote canyon, creating one of the most visually shocking roads in the country. Instead of following the land, the road is cut sideways into solid cliff rock, forming a narrow ledge suspended high above the canyon floor. In many sections, the width is barely 3 meters, leaving room for only a single vehicle, while the drop below plunges hundreds of meters straight down. Built largely by hand, using basic tools, the road reflects an almost unreal level of human persistence against brutal terrain. Rainwater seeps from the cliff walls, keeping the surface damp and slippery, and falling rocks are a constant threat. Nikko Irohazaka Winding Road, Japan, is a mountain route whose identity is entirely shaped by its design. Connecting Nikko City to Lake Chuzenji, the road is split into 2 separate lanes, one for ascending, one for descending, each carved into the forested slopes of the mountains. Its most striking feature is a sequence of 48 tightly numbered hairpin turns, each bend marked with a character from the traditional Japanese Iroha alphabet. From above, the road looks like a carefully drawn pattern, zigzagging endlessly through dense trees and steep terrain. But from the driver's seat, the geometry becomes overwhelming. Constant turns, sudden elevation changes, and limited sight lines around every curve. In autumn and winter, fallen leaves, fog, snow, and ice can drastically alter the road's grip and visibility.